This is my 2019-2020 December daily. Once again, Simple Stories album. Loved the one they did this year. It wasn't completely 100% printed. This may have been the introduced the year before, but I used it for this year. It has the craft, it has the binding, which makes me think of some of the craft albums you can get now. 49 Market makes that wonderful fabric tape, so you could do something similar to a binder that you already have and putting the fabric tape around the binder. Of course, the plate would have to change, but something to think about if you get one that doesn't have a plate. So this is December 2019 to January 2020. So starting out with my title page, I got this die. It's a Tim Holtz die, and also a cauldron die that I turned into a bag. So Santa has a sack on his back, and I had done a whole bunch of these for cards, which you'll see later. And so I had made some extra in the hopes of using them. And when you're doing something in production, you might as well cut, 50 pairs of sunglasses or eyeglasses instead of just one at a time. So I had assembled a whole bunch of Santas. I still have a few left over. These are so much work that I use them very sparingly. But here I wanted to use it on this title page. I like glitter, and so I used a glitter paper in behind. It's just kind of a fun little layered Santa there with some goodies from my stash. 2019 is foam. I like using foam in the albums as well because it has that give to it. I started this album much like the year before with November. Here's us. We were doing some photos around our apartment complex at the time and loved kind of this area that had steps up, but the rocks and the snow gave a nice little background for us. So that was one of the pictures from there. Here's a fold out November. I don't have a ton in November, but I do like sometimes to put a few things in here. A small little fold out. Don't have pictures for the key things. There's a few dates, October, November. I did this all in Word, printed it out. I deliberately left space for my labels, stamped on those, and was able to put those in. You could put those in, with Photoshop or with Word itself, but I wanted a little bit of texture there, so use the labels that I had. Some, scraps of paper and some chipboard letters. On the back of that, I had pulled together a collage of going to California. I was there for several days for a work trip. And so, meeting up with clients and meeting up with some friends and family. And the collage is nice because I could take little snapshots and add a little bit of an embellishment. I went to downtown Disney with my mother-in-law, and so added some pictures of that. Again, with stickers. Keeping things pretty straightforward. I have a little bit of journaling, but the photos kind of tell the story. Getting back, Thanksgiving. I always like to include Thanksgiving in the album. We don't necessarily do a ton for Thanksgiving, but adding a list. I love lists in December Daily because you can capture a lot in one little card. I made chicken pot pies, and not traditional, but that's something that we do. The Simple Stories album came with this beautiful December that was blank, meant for you to fill it out, and I love that it was blank because you could put in the numbers for the year that you were doing it. So in this case, I stamped all of the numbers with an LE Studio stamp, and I wrote in all of the stuff that was happening that month. So this was the year over Christmas I had gone to London with my brother, and so it was on here, and had the opportunity to capture something that isn't normal in my December. And also it was the first Christmas since we were married that Tom and I were separated, and we didn't spend the time together, but he's not a huge long flight traveler, and was happy to have me go and spend that time with my brother. So stamped the year here. These are die cuts. Simple Stories has a lot of great inserts like this in their albums. And so taking advantage of them is fun. The back, I didn't like what was printed on it. Covered it with some paper. And a huge photo here. Again, using Photoshop for the journaling, and then using stickers and thickers and stuff for the actual title. And LE Studio sometimes also does releases where the date is already, printed or ready to go. In one of the other albums, if you watch the other videos, they had December with the block open, and it was all different colors, grays, greens, reds. Here they did everything in red and put the number in for you. So those were little stickers that were easy just to put in and good to go. The second, again, it is always Grinch Day because of my mom's birthday. So we watched all 3 Grinches. I have a picture of all 3 from my TV. Added the little title that I found online. I did a little shaker card here. It has an acrylic heart and some little trees and snowflakes and glitter. Packed it way too full. Way too full. So you want to fill them about 1/3 so that things can move around, but it is what it is. And also my little Lego Grinch there. On the back side are decorations. So decking the halls. Your peek throughs are fun when you do them so that they work on both sides. So here, pulling in that green and also some of the red. Glitter does not work. So you can see the glitter kind of poke through and gets jammed in the corners. Do not recommend glitter in shakers unless it's a really chunky glitter. If it's a fine glitter, do not use it. It does not work. I've tried it a couple times, never works. The next part, so December 3rd, I did 3 things. So 3 things that was happening that day, 3 ornaments, cluster of 3 at the bottom. Again, foam numbers makes it easy for them to smush a little bit if they need to. And then on the back of that, a big photo and some embellishments using some of the dead space. This was an insert in the album, Have Yourself a Merry Low Christmas. These are kind of fun to just keep in the album. Again, didn't like what was on the back, printed something out and put it on top, adding some little embellishments as I went. Little stamps. Here, the opening is here. This is thick. It's a coaster, actually. And actually 2 coasters. I glued them back to back because I liked both of them. They're from the Target dollar spot. Because one matched this side, one matched that side. But they popped out, so I just put a few little stitches there. Didn't want a whole line of stitches, but a few stitches gives that texture, kind of works with other stitching and stuff that's in the album. So think about doing that. Even if you're not a seamstress, even just putting a few hand stitches would work and gives you some nice texture as well. There's the coaster, replicating the circles. I had gone up to IKEA after work one day. All of my journaling is on an angle up there, so kind of using the photo as part of that, hiding that journaling in, adding the stickers is kind of nice as well. Here is our card that I made for that year. So I put us in Santa's sack, and sometimes I do journaling in the card, and I did this year. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, so I can see the inside of the card, but also I do some journaling in there sometimes too, and it's hidden journaling. I like doing that sometimes when it's not a huge story, or maybe it's something more personal. In this case, it's just that it worked because it's in the thing. I didn't want to cut a strip in here so it flips out. And then on the back, again, a big opportunity for a photo. This is a 5x5 so that I could put I Heart Santa, and those are stamps that I put there. I do like little pages like this that are flipped. So the 9th here, using the dead space to put in some journaling, and there's all this gift wrap there. Do not need gift wrap. I am banned from gift wrap ever again. Annual meeting for Yardy, so kind of put what was happening there. Again, some days don't need a photo. So this is just a story for December 10th, but it paired nicely with December 11th. Now, Is this the same day? Is this consecutive days? At this point, I don't know. I may have not had anything for December 10th, and so I just used the story from the 11th for the 10th. Does it matter? Do I remember? Don't care. Okay. Um, this was a good day. This was a rough day. So it makes me think that probably they were, two different days. I usually take a shot of myself at my desk at some point in the year, often with December Daily, though. What's a typical December day at work? The the 12th, simple story about turning on the twinkling lights in the morning and in the dark. So that's it. The photo isn't super great. There's a lot of darkness in here. Filled it with some big embellishments, but laying in bed, I could see the tree. And this is the year that we did the small tree because I wasn't going to be home at Christmas and we were moving things around. So that worked out. The holiday party, we did a casino night. So there's pictures from that. And some little fake money. Here's a gift tag that I had used in here as a big embellishment. The 14th, I used some Jolie's. Those are fun too. They're sometimes a little thick, but they're super cute. So I had done some baking and so wanted to capture that. Used a piece of paper in behind. Spreading out the embellishments of the pack. Use the whole pack, but spread them out to really pull all the pieces together. Lists. I've talked about, capturing movies and TV shows. So here we had different streaming services. And so I saved up some of these cards. Our favorite TV show at the time was Mandalorian because of Grogu, Baby Yoda. And then what I did is I printed out and punched out the logo of what we were watching and picked the stars that matched the logo. So the Disney is blue, Netflix is red, Hulu is green. And then just wrote down the various shows that Tom likes, I like, or the two of us watch together. So that's kind of fun because some of these aren't on anymore, like Schitt's Creek or The Toys That Made Us. Billing on the Street isn't on anymore. We were watching Cheers and Frasier. Yeah, it's kind of fun to see those things. Snapshot of life. And then here we are. This is ahead of time for our anniversary, which pairs with this. Often I, separate them out and have the spread, but it just works. The 16th is here. Here we are. We went to Texas T-Bone for our anniversary, journaling there. And then, again, some little stamps on a card that isn't necessarily Christmas. Actually, these were from Valentine's, but the pink and the red worked with that peppermint look. So pulled it all together with the embellishments. And this is actually a little flip up. We were taking photos, and of course he always does a nice face, and then he always does something ridiculous when I'm not paying attention. And so did a little flip up there. Sometimes I do little tabs on these so you know that they're flip ups. Here you can feel things and you can see that it's not behind the plastic. So something to think about there. It's always nice to have a gratitude piece. And so again, this is not a Christmas piece. I just made it into Christmas. This was. And so, here were spots for journaling prompts. Ellie's Studio does a really good job of creating Christmas cards and prompts. If you ever wonder about their products, just ask. I will be happy to share. But here, the colors all tied together, so that's what I went with. Snowman, left him alone. I could have stickled him. He did come in the album. I just thought it was kind of a cool little divider in between as I go on to the next story. So a tradition of, our team does a special holiday breakfast potluck. So it was the team I was on at the time. So it was a potluck morning, and we did decorating at our spot. So we made it into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So there's Bumble, and I made these cards, made a card and sent that. here's my little spot in our storage room, my little corner of the world. And so some of the little decorations and stuff that I had. And then I am off. So here I am off to Vancouver to see my brother. And again, I like these little inserts for extra photos. And also, it was a nice divider because I flew up and then we were flying out that evening, or the next evening, sorry. So it was, here I am, here we go. I often will print out Elf or other kind of movie icons that I like and add those. Totally was excited as Elf right there to spend my time in London. I absolutely adore London, and at Christmas time it was absolutely magical. So great cards from LA Studios, some more stamps, just adding some little stickles and stars and all that goodness. This side had 4. I wanted a big photo here. Had to cut it up to make it fit. I could have glued it on the outside of the plastic. I didn't want to do that. Cutting it up was fine. I didn't cut my head off, and it still shows the big London eye and the tree. So there's lots of nice overlap to tie all the pieces together. So if I had a different type of photo that didn't have elements that tied everything together, it would look weird, but I thought there it looked kind of cool. The 23rd, we saw Sir Ian McKellen do his little chat. He was raising money for the theater. And at the end, to our surprise, he was outside taking donations. And I got to talk to Sir Ian McKellen. Very gracious man. Didn't chat long, but, enough. Enough to satisfy my soul. So, unfortunately, my brother was not with me at that time. He was outside, and I walk outside, and he's like, "What happened? What happened?" Because I guess I was just like pale and like freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I talked to him." So, really cool moment. He's a delight. So that was the 23rd, and then the 24th we went and we saw Nutcracker. So, again, not a Christmas card, but used stamps, and I actually stamped her on vellum. She's a little hard to see. And then I used stickles to, make her wings look gossamer and the tulle and stuff. And she just kind of floats there. So that was really cool. As was the tree that was made of ballet shoes. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So had to take a picture of that. This was actually in the tube because I couldn't find anything for that, but that was in the tube. So that was kind of fun. We were there at Christmas Day. The Queen's Message, I watch it every year anyway, but seeing it live in London was absolutely incredible. So this is just a card, added a few little things to this, but kept it pretty straightforward for that year. And then the 26th, so the 25th, that's it. Like, that was the highlight of the day. Other albums, I was putting everything we did that day. So, what did we do for lunch? It's not here. What did we do for dinner? It's not here. What gifts did we exchange? It's not here. This was the story of the day. Okay. So I changed because there's just so much you do in the season. And there's often a lot of pressure, and what do you put in, and how do you incorporate it, and how thick does it need to be? You'll notice that this is not as thick as some of the other years. It's full, but it's not super thick. And so that's because I changed that approach. Am I sad? No. Did I capture everything that I wanted to capture in here? Yes. And so your album is your album. Whatever you want to do, you do. So that day, the biggest story of my life was watching the Queen's Message live. That was super exciting to me. I have always loved the Queen. It was always something special that I did. When nobody else was interested, I watched the Queen's Message. So that was my story. 26th, 27th, we were in Disneyland Paris. Just picked some, highlights of that. So a parade, They have a really cool X-Wing on top of their Star Tours, which we don't have in North America. I got my beautiful Mr. Toad statue. There was Sorcerer Mickey, who is my favorite Mickey. Here we are at the gate. That's it. Not a lot. Now, you could put, if you wanted to have, even though it's the 26th and the 27th, if you wanted to have more journaling, you could put an insert, put a tag. But I know I will do a big album of this. I know I will do a travel album of London. And so this wasn't where I wanted to put all of the words. The words will be elsewhere. Kept it simple, kept it light. These were the highlights. These were the highlights of the day. I had a stamp that says Joyeux Noël, which is, Merry Christmas in French. Loved that I had that stamp and filled that sky space there. Yeah, loved it. 28th, we were back in London. 29th, we were back in Vancouver. And then the 30th, I flew home. So kept everything here. Boom, boom. We met up with some friends. We meet up with the Grants every single time we're there. We walked across Tower Bridge with them. We went to Fleet Street. I had a pie on Fleet Street, which is, cheeky because of Sweeney Todd. Had to do it. It was so much fun. Steve and I both had a pie, so that was fun. Here, replicated the photos. Deliberately wanted to have, Jason walking through Heathrow and then me walking through Vancouver. So made sure that we replicated that. Replicated how I did the journaling and the little embellishments simply because it was 2 days of travel. So, yeah, that's what I did there. And then I also did that so that I could end December on this page. I like ending December or any transition on the left-hand side because then the right-hand side can be an insert that is ready to go. And here, New Year's Eve, we weren't going to do anything. I just got back. We just hung out. Not much to say. Ellie Studio always does these currently the favorites from the month. This was currently favorite details. I wrote 2019 and just used it for the year. So, what was our favorites for the year? Asked Tom. Put mine in. Of course, sometimes he's absolutely ridiculous. Like, what are you reading? He's like, Facebook. Sometimes answers surprise you. Like, what are you creating? And he's like, time together. I'm like, aw, that's sweet. Sometimes answers surprise you. So, doing interviews with your family is kind of fun. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but I'm recording all these videos in one day of different December dailies. This image was used in another album. So, they obviously liked it, or it was a different company maybe. I don't know, but they made this into an insert or a piece of paper. And I cut it out and I use it as a divider. I don't know why I love that image, but I do. And so it's a divider into January. And I saw this ugly Christmas sweater with Grogu, and so added here because he was called the child in the show. And so what child is this? Cracked me up. So I had to put that there. I changed the font here, of course. I always do going into January. This was the first. So we went to see the rise of Skywalker. So lots of fun. Obviously missed it when it first came out because I was in London, but we went and saw it. So that was a marquee thing there. That's the day. The second, magic is something we make. And I don't drink coffee, neither does Tom, but I thought this was kind of cool with the pink and with the numbers. And here was a whole container of cinnamon bears. Again, not something that is even Christmas related, but I saw it. He has a little Tetris brain, so he likes to fit everything together. And I was like, that's really cool, just the way that the red is, and you don't immediately know what it is, and you kind of look and you're like, oh. And so just talked about what that day was and, making magic in a time where You know, it's after the Christmas season and maybe it's not super exciting, but leading up into Ukrainian Christmas. Here was a wreath that I got at a sale. So after Christmas sales, printed it out, made sure it was the right size, used my Martha Stewart cutter to cut it into a circle, added a circle here. That was day 3. Got a cool wreath. I'm going to decorate these. And day 4, we went and made homemade pizza. So again, cut out the wreath, positioned it, and then fussy cut around to make the pizza work. Added the peppermint because of the round circle, keeping in with the holiday theme. Every day is a gift. I think this was just a generic one. I don't think this was a Christmas pack one. And then I had a sticker that said work, so just did a little, brief thing about work in the new year. And then I love these sayings that you can randomly use. Not necessarily Christmas, but Christmas is all about light and, shining. So my Angelou, I included that there. Gave kind of a bit of a break with no pictures, just that's what it is. But it also picks up a lot of the colors that are over here. So here's Christmas Eve. It was just the 2 of us. That year I couldn't find any frozen pierogies to buy. And I didn't make any because I was just back from London and trying to catch up with everything. And so that year I made stroganoff. And so, yeah, that was it. 7th, started watching The Witcher, and I brought back some chocolates from Canada. If you're ever in Canada, Purdy's chocolates are amazing. Get some Purdy's chocolates. Used some Christmas cards from Ellie's Studio. Added my layering. Didn't finish my journaling apparently, but that's Witcher, so that's Henry Cavill in Witcher. Really good show, really enjoy him as an actor. And he's a total nerd and a gamer too, so also enjoy that. He's such a nerd. He played this video game before he was the character, so there was a legitimate love there, so that was kind of cool. Didn't finish off with any year thoughts or month thoughts. Just finished on January 7th. That was my album. I loved the peppermint. I wish they still made this album because I would buy a bazillion of them and use them every single year. But loved the peppermint and used that. Like there's a peppermint in behind here. There's, peppermint stripes. Use that throughout the album as kind of my basis for a lot of things in the stickers and keeping that red and white feel. So sometimes the album will inspire that. Other times the album, it doesn't necessarily have to match with everything. So again, it's your album. You do what you want. I kind of pick the album based on my mood. And so, especially recently, I've been doing more of themed. Last year I picked the Grinch as an overarching theme throughout the entire album. So think about something like that, whether it's a design element or a theme that you want to capture in your book.